We are back here on WLTH 1370 AM. The number is 219-885-1371 for those who want to speak to me or the Rev, or me and the Rev.
Yep, we're both here.
We are both here. And this week,
doing the right thing too.
This week was the most insane news week ever in terms of just story after story after story after story. I forgot. Next week we're gonna have a credit specialist on. His name is Bowman. So everybody who's got credit problems or wants to be educated about credit, he does workshops to help you get your credit in order. I needed that at times. I remember one time my credit was so bad I was hiding from the credit agencies like they were loan sharks or something. They was calling my grandmother. And my grandmother lives all the way in East Chicago. They were calling her and my brother and harassing them on the phone like, "Hey, where's Scott?" And I was like, come on. They are ruthless.
Yeah.
They are ruthless, and they will come for you. And so they came for me, and I did my best to hide until I couldn't hide anymore. So we'll talk to Mr. Mark Bowman next week at 7 p.m. here on WLT's 1370 AM.
Looking forward to it.
Yes. And one of the bizarre stories, well, I won't say bizarre, but I really wasn't expecting this, but Donald Rumsfeld died.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I am no fan. To me, the man's a war criminal. And one of the architects behind the torture program and the Iraq War, and served to do a whole lot of, in my opinion, evil here in this world. He was simultaneously the youngest Secretary of Defense of all time, and then became the oldest secretary. Under Gerald Ford, he was the youngest, and then under George W. Bush, he was the oldest.
Was it under Gerald Ford?
Yeah, yeah, he was under Ford. So how long he was in power, and I didn't know this, but until recently, he was a 3-term congressman from Illinois. So I did not know that he was right next door to us, director of the Office of Economic Opportunity. He was counselor to the president under Nixon, so he had his hand all over Vietnam.
I guess because I'm kind of thinking that he was somewhere involved in Vietnam.
Oh yeah, he was definitely involved in Vietnam. He was involved in everything evil. I remember one of the most famous pictures of him is him shaking hands with Saddam Hussein at the White House right after Saddam Hussein had gassed all those people in the Iran-Iraq war in the 80s. So yes, definitely, he was, like I said, one of the architects of the torture program in Iraq. He pitched a torture technique of forcing men held at Guantanamo Bay for hours on end. They used to force the men to stand in, I guess, in these sort of positions for 4 to 5 hours, and he said, "Hey, I can stand for 8 to 10 hours a day." So they doubled it, and so a lot of that stuff, Guantanamo, Abu Ghraib. One thing that annoys me is how the sort of Bush era excesses of people like Rumsfeld and Cheney and Condoleezza, all these people sort of been wiped out. It's probably the thing that has annoyed me the most about the Trump era, where people are like, "Oh my God, Trump is the worst person in the history of the world. Oh my God." It's like they've forgotten that there's 2 million dead people in Iraq, and Guantanamo Bay, and the Abu Ghraib situation where they were literally, remember when those pictures came out?
Well, the thing about that is most of that stuff happened way over there. And unlike the Vietnam War, we didn't see it every night at 6 p.m. on our TV screen.
Yep.
The Desert Storm, even if you include the whole, Desert Shield period of time, that was a relatively short period of time. If you look at Enduring Freedom, that was a very short period of time. Now, if you look at the Afghani conflict, which has lasted forever and ever, amen.
Yes, it has.
But again, we don't see that on TV night after night at 6 p.m. So it it kind of does, fade from, from the public consciousness, if you will. I mean, look at this way. That Afghani conflict has been going on through what? It went through 3 presidents.
Yeah.
You
3
know,
presidents.
3 presidents. But we didn't see body bags.
We did not
see, because drones. If a drone gets shot down, you don't get a body bag for
it. That as well.
But when you look at President Trump's administration, a lot of stuff that he did, or at least I'll put it this way, the way it was interpreted, a lot of stuff that he did, the way it was interpreted to us by the media, made that very immediate, very personal. It impacts you.
Yep.
And you were told this day after day after day. So yes, in the minds of your typical voter, Donald Trump is probably the worst thing that's happened to Washington, D.C. since the British burned it down in the War of 1812.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another issue of the media. You brought up the media early while you're talking. And it's another reason why on this show, I've always talked about media ownership. This is what happens when you have a media. John Ellis, one of George W. Bush's cousins, is the guy who ran Fox News. So Roger Ailes was a Nixonian and a Reaganite, and these people, and he was with the Bushes as well. So you have a situation where so many of these people now who used to be either serving in the surveillance state with the FBI, the CIA, or a part of these administrations are now dictating the news that we see. So like you really hit the nail on the head. People weren't forced to see body bags every day like they were during Vietnam. And so the constant drip of death in Iraq and Afghanistan, and now Libya, Syria, Pakistan, Somalia. I remember when that black soldier, when Trump first got in office, there was a black soldier who got killed in Niger. And everybody made it like, what are we doing in Niger? Like nobody even knew we were there. And it is because, again, you have a media that is owned by a few people, and that is really being dictated to us by the surveillance states. You turn on MSNBC any given day, you can see Malcolm Nance there. You can see James Clapper there. These are spooks. These are people who worked in the surveillance state. They're giving you the line of the government whenever they go in there. Whenever you turn on CNN and you see the different correspondents they have there, a lot of those people, Anderson Cooper worked for the CIA for a while. He was an intern there. And so many people when they're reading you the news, it's the news that they want to give you. And this is why a study just came out recently that showed that America has the least trusted news in the developed world. No other country trusts their news less than Americans do. And this is a big part of the reason why, because there's so much there's so much overlap, and there's so much sort of incestuous relations happening between the media and the government, so the public don't trust it. So yes, Donald Rumsfeld died. He did not get anywhere near the type of flack and outrage that he was supposed to get while he was still here. Another politician died, but unfortunately this was a great man, Mike Gravel. He also died. He died over the weekend, and because he was somebody who regularly fought media narratives of the war complex and the prison complex and the wealthy Wall Street elites who control our government and control our media, he was rarely covered, or he was covered as some sort of weirdo, the way they cover, Marianne Williamson, or the way they used to cover Dennis Kucinich back in the day, or Ralph Nader, like, oh, this kook, oh my God, this kook doesn't want us to go to war. So he passed away as well, a former congressman from Alaska. He was somebody who actually, when the Pentagon Papers that came out and exposed the conspiracy that got us to go to war in Iraq. I mean, not Iraq. There's so many of these countries. Vietnam. He actually read the Pentagon Papers that Daniel Ellsberg released in the halls of Congress. He used his time and his immunity to read it in Congress so people could see what exactly was in, could hear what was in the Pentagon Papers, knowing that the media would have to cover it. And even until his old age, he was always fighting, continuing to fight the entire establishment until he died recently. I think he ran for president 2020. He just didn't get on the stage. But I just wanted to really give everybody a type of somewhat of an intro to who Mike Gravel was. You should look up who Mike Gravel was. And he's a big part of the reason that I'm so critical of the Democrats on here. People are like, why are you critical of the Clintons? Why are you critical of Obama? Why are you critical of Joe Biden? Because they don't sound like Mike Gravel. They don't sound like Mike Gravel. They don't sound the way Democrats used to sound when they were anti-war or they were anti-corruption of the corporate media and everything else. So rest in peace to him.
You know, I was, as you were talking, I was thinking about another thing that may have played into the difference between how people view the Bush administration and the Trump administration.
Right.
Bush was a likable guy.
Yeah, that's what it was.
He was a likable. It reminds me of that scene in the play Hamilton when Aaron Burr runs for president. Mm-hmm. And they got this little bit going, and the women are saying, I like him. He's cute. And someone else says, yeah, it's like you'd like to have a beer with him. And when I heard that line, I was like, yep. George Bush. George Bush. Whereas Donald Trump, the only people that like him, are the ones who felt like he was the last line of defense between their values and total chaos.
Yep.
Other people might say, well, he's necessary, or they didn't like the alternatives, what have you, but he just didn't come across as likable to anybody.
Right.
Except the people that just, I don't know, whatever the Kool-Aid was he was offering, But whereas Bush, he's this folksy, aw shucks kind of guy. And then you look at some of the people that were in his administration. You mentioned Condoleezza Rice. I mean, the woman is brilliant.
Yeah.
She's talented. She's not married somehow. But you can't imagine a black woman with her talents and her skills that you wouldn't like to spend time around, just for the conversation. General Colin Powell, another person.
Yeah.
People of some significance, some stature that just didn't look, they did not come across as muddy and dirty, grungy.
Right.
Whereas the guys in Trump's administration either looked like they just climbed out of the muck,
mm-hmm.
or they looked like a deer in the headlights who thought they were being invited to serve in a noble capacity, and then they got a chance to see what they were up against, and like a deer in the headlights. Those are the ones that resigned after a few weeks.
Yeah, you look at people like Michael Cohen, who is the sort of prototype for the slimy lawyer. The slimy lawyer figure, people like Steve Bannon, people like obviously Jared and Ivanka, who have a sort of Stepford quality about them, where Ivanka and Melania has a Stepford wife sort of way about herself. And this is what I always contended. A lot of it had to do too with the fact that Donald Trump, he exposed the elites for who they are. Like Donald Trump said the quiet part out loud. That's pretty much what the only thing he did. All of them. If you think Donald Trump is the only one that is racist, the only one who says racist stuff, or the only one who says sexist stuff or whatever, again, just read about the things Bill Clinton was doing when he was governor of Arkansas to people like Juanita Broderick and Kathleen Willey and Paula Jones. Some of the stuff Clinton was accused of back in the 80s and 90s will make your skin crawl. It really would. Then you look at people like Joe Biden talking about he didn't want his kids to grow up in a racial jungle, which, again, I genuinely don't know how he got away with saying that and still somehow gets black people to vote for him 90% of the time. His own vice president called him, basically and said he was racist. Kamala Harris went on TV and blasted Joe Biden for being pro-segregation in the 70s, and then she ended up his vice president. And so, like, this is basically, the media has such a power to control narratives, and this is what I was always fighting with a lot of people here on this station and even in my personal life about the difference between Trump and these people. The media don't like Trump because he exposes who all of them are. It's simple as that. His corruption is open corruption. His racism, sexism, whatever is open. He just kind of is what he is. It's what Malcolm X said back in the day, that the biggest difference between Democrats and Republicans is that Democrats are the fox. The Democrats are the fox. Meanwhile, the Republicans are the wolf. And so to be scared of a wolf because a wolf looks scary. But at that fox is going to draw you in because that fox is like, hey, don't mind me. I'm just a fox. And so Donald Trump was a wolf. We all knew he was a wolf. Nobody likes the wolf, but at least we're smart enough to run from the wolf. We see the fox and run towards the fox.
He's cute.
Yes, he's cute. Oh my God.
They pick him up and they cuddle him.
Yes.
And then he proceeds to disembowel them.
Yes.
That's what foxes do.
Yes. And so before we go to our second break here, I just want to shine a little bit of a spotlight on my favorite Mike Gravel moment at the 2008 debates for president. He calls out Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, John Edwards, all these people. He's out there on the stage at the debate calling them out for being warmongers when they are indeed cowards themselves. Rest in peace to the late, great Mike Gravel. We'll be right back here on WLTH. Oh, come on now. Come on. Don't do this to me. Oh, here we go. Here we go.